I think this is quite a remarkable one, really. Father Simon and the Conscious Collective, pretty much. My tale begins at the turn of the millennium, when I said my I do's and I married my husband in January. However, for the past 18 years and 5 months we've been married, I've only lived with my husband for 14 months. For the majority of our marriage, I haven't even lived in the same county as my husband, let alone the same house. We split up in March 2001. I'm aware we should probably have got a divorce by now, but I'm an out of sight, out of mind girl, really, and I totally forget that I'm actually married. So this is promising already.
This is quite confusing. 14 months together, right?
Yeah, in 18 years. They've been together for 14 months,
okay,
but they haven't seen each other before. I'd moved back to my small hometown in Staffordshire and had been happily living there uninterrupted for a few years. I must add that it being my hometown does mean that there are ghosts of ex-boyfriends past living within the vicinity, with one former boyfriend's family still residing in the next village along. I regularly saw said exes, let's call him Bill for ease. So his mum and dad, out and about, always had a catch-up. They told me what Bill had been up to over the years and that he'd recently remarried and moved away. I should stress that my estranged husband was still living up in West Yorkshire, although he was also from my hometown. I hadn't seen him in a while. Like I said, out of sight, out of mind. One morning I toddled off to my local supermarket, and as I walked through the door, I came face to face with my ex in the sandwich aisle.
Is this ex-husband or ex-boyfriend?
I'm on good terms with my exes, so I didn't think twice about wandering over to say hi. The subsequent conversation went something like this. Me. Hi, how you doing? Him. Great, thanks. Me. I hear you got married again. Him. Pardon? I say, I hear you got married again. Him, with a slightly confused look on his face. How could I? So I say, well, people do that now. It's not that rare. You shouldn't feel bad, He says, but I'm still married to you. Me going redder by the minute. Oh, yes, I forgot about that. Yes, Father Simon, I had actually failed to recognise my own husband.
No! Who does that?
He says, who told you I got married? So I say, trying to dig myself out of a horrible husband-shaped hole. A friend, obviously, when they said they'd heard my ex had got married, I assumed they meant you, but of course they couldn't have because, as you say, we're still married. I would have pointed that out to them had I remembered at the time. They must have meant another ex of mine. So he says, right, but you did recognise me. I am, after all, your husband. I'm sure by now, Simon, you can actually feel how much I was willing the floor to open up and save me from this hell. I couldn't actually admit that I hadn't recognised my husband. Or rather, I had recognised him, but as the wrong ex. So I thought swiftly on my feet and blamed the rumour on a fictitious friend to try and save my blushes. In my defence, I was seeing him out of context. That really doesn't work, Kirsty. The last I knew, he was still living up in West Yorkshire, but no, apparently he'd moved back a few months previously. Whereas Bill, who I mistook him for, was from the next village, and so obviously more likely to be bumped into. And this is really hopeless, Kirsty, and they both had short, dark hair. Please forgive me, I've obviously never admitted this to him, and my family take great pleasure in pointing out to everyone that they know that not only have we still never sorted out a divorce, but when I bumped into my husband, I didn't even recognise him and thought he was somebody else altogether. I'm hoping he doesn't listen to Radio 2, although I do now live up in South Yorkshire, so I'm less likely to bump into him again, and if I do, he'll be out of context again. I'll probably mistake him for the window cleaner or someone like that. Well, Kirsty, I think you're in all kinds of trouble there. First of all, I just cannot see how it is possible for anyone ever not to recognise the person that they're actually still married to, even if they're out of context and even if he's just got short brown hair like millions of other men. So that's not going to wash, I don't think, but let's see what Joe makes of all that.
I'm really hoping he does listen to Radio 2, don't you?
Yes.
I mean, this is a situation, it's a whole heap of a hellish situation, to be honest with you, and you only have yourself to blame, so definitely not forgiven. You married the man, you didn't bother getting divorced from the man, he's got short brown hair, so have quite a lot of guys, but you were married to him, you were in love with him at one point, and you just, this is inexcusable, completely inexcusable.
Even if you haven't seen him for a while, he's still your husband, just because he's in a supermarket.
Not a boyfriend. No, so, totally unforgivable, but very funny.
Bobby has her head in her hands. I couldn't see because she was the other side of my computer screen.
I'm so sorry. I'm thinking about this because I agree with Joe wholeheartedly. But here's the thing: is statistically, don't most marriages end acrimoniously? Very few end when both parties are very happy. Of course, that is possible, and lots of people do it. And congratulations if you do.
Mm-hmm.
But what's great about this is she wasn't. The only thing I can think about this, which is kind of really nothing to do with it, except I've got off on a tangent, which is if you saw your ex-husband and your emotional response was not oh my word, there you are. I think that's generally a healthy thing.
Bobby, it's her husband. She's in the supermarket. He's in the supermarket.
I know, but she either didn't recognise him as her husband, or it was so bad she's blanked it out. And so that's why I'm being careful.
Maybe he's changed. Maybe
so much.
he looks
or
so different.
She's still in love with the bit that she's in love with. That when he walked back in again, she'd forgotten about how bad
Maybe
he was.
she's just all over the place.
So I don't know. So I've never heard of this ever. And I think on this occasion, I'm going to forgive.
Well, I'm shocked.
Listen, I'm shocked, but I think there's something good about it.
Bobby, how could you?
Well, the only thing she needs to do, she needs to look at her will, because I think she's married to him, and he gets the house, and him too.
Okay.
Get